Coast millennial. Wife and 5 children of Boulder terror suspect arrested by ICE, facing deportation. Not just that, the White House put out a statement saying this is literally from at White House, 6 one-way tickets for Mohammed's wife and 5 kids. Final boarding call coming soon. That's bold. Now, here's where it gets really crazy. Check this out. They say that the news was first broken by Laura Loomer. Shout out to Laura Loomer. She has been killing it with her reporting as of recent. And get this. She tweets, DHS has exclusively confirmed to me that Muslim Brotherhood terrorist Mohammed Salman's wife and 5 kids have officially been taken into ICE custody and they're being processed. DHS tells me they became aware of his children following Loomer unleashed exclusive reporting, including the fact that his daughter just graduated from Thomas McLaren State Charter School in Colorado and is set to attend college in Colorado. Not anymore. Apparently, they will all now be deported. And I have questions. I mean, were they here illegally? I've seen reporting that their visas, I think, is this Bill Malugin? I don't know. Yes, Here he goes. Bill Malugin says, the State Department confirms to Fox News that all visas for Boulder terror attack suspect Mohammed Salman's family have been revoked. ICE arrested all of them earlier today, and they are now in federal custody being processed for expedited removal and fast deportation. So it sounds like they may have been here legally. Now, I'm going to make an assumption. They came here illegally, overstayed their visas, and then got special provisions from the Biden administration.
Yeah, that's the reporting that I've heard. But look, the whole family should go back. Sorry, if they're here on visas and your father does this kind of stuff, you got to go back to where you came from. There was something that I saw on Twitter earlier today or yesterday that Stephen Miller is extremely unhappy with the number of deportations and how fast it's happening. That echoes what you hear from people on the internet. Everybody, frequently, you hear people say, it's not happening fast enough. It's been this many months. Where's this? Where's that? And I think that Stephen Miller is echoing that. And I think that this kind of stuff is part of the result of the administration paying attention to what people on the internet and their supporters think.
Right. And could you imagine if Osama bin Laden's family was here during 9/11? I mean,
right. And then if the government put them on planes and shuttled them out secretly.
Exactly. What, are you going to keep them here? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just hope people are aware that literally happened.
Yeah. his family was here.
But I think they were, his family was shuttled out protectively. And the argument they gave was that the family wasn't associated and they were concerned for their safety or something.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I heard too. I heard that it's the builder magnet kind of dude that was his dad was in the U.S. doing that stuff. So,
well, Biden let this guy stay here illegally, and this is what happens.
All of this stuff can be directly given right to the Democrats, and they haven't even come out and strongly denounced this. I haven't heard any,
not once,
Washington Democrats even make a remark about this.
No, they're struggling to avoid having to take responsibility for the rhetoric and for the ideologies they promote.
Mm-hmm.
Democrats have been having these secret meetings. I love it. They give all of them top secret names. Not kidding. They've got, what do they have? So everyone knows about Project Sam, right?
What was Sam?
Project Sam?
Yeah.
That's where the Democrats spent $20 million to try and figure out how to talk to American men.
Okay, all right, that's
yeah, Project Sam.
I didn't realize that was called Project
Sam.
That's a thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now,
yes. Wow.
Hold on. Project Searchlight and Wildflower. These people are so deranged. And I just take a look at what Nate Silver was reporting, where they got a high rate of mental illness. This is what you get. They blindly march in lockstep with crackpot agendas and ideologies that make no sense. They allow these lunatics, unvetted, or sometimes they know they're dangerous, to stay in this country, and this is what happens. When they try to assess, hey, what's wrong with the Democratic Party? Why are people leaving? They're like, I get an idea. Let's spend $10 million going to a resort where we'll have a special event called Project Starlight. And then we're going to talk about why we can't attract regular working people. And it's like, maybe it's your fake movie-esque code names and inability to discern, how to live like a normal person.
Democrats really are the theater kids.
Yep.
And it shows.
That's all of Congress. I mean, pretty much. They're just the ugly kids that couldn't, So
what I think is absolutely fascinating, well, first and foremost, Laura Loomer, I don't think get enough credit for her phenomenal reporting here, and the influence she has in the administration can't really be understated. There's other reporting today that she met with Vice President J.D. Vance. So Laura Loomer has her fingers probably not only in the executive branch, but probably also over at DHS. So her reporting also led to the deportation here. I think what the story is going to turn into is it being not just about this guy and his terrorist attack, but it will ultimately be about the decision to deport his family members as well. They likely weren't citizens. I think the reporting showed that they were here on visas, but I think moving forward, the Democrats will actually choose to defend this person's family. They will say this,
Yep.
They don't deserve it. They have no relation to him, despite the extremism definitely in the family. The wife definitely knew something about this.
This is the criminal action of one man.
Yeah, and I think we should also recognize a little bit more about the culture that Muhammad comes from and how they view these acts of violence versus how we view it in a Western sense. So some people here will condemn it. Many pro-Hamas or pro-Palestine people will actually commend this guy and justify it and say this is an act of resistance and he's a martyr. But when he goes back to Egypt or Kuwait or this family, wherever they're deported to, they will be brought back as heroes, actually.
I had an idea.
It's a death cult.
I had an idea. Why did this guy attack some random Americans who are trying to raise awareness peacefully for these hostages? He's concerned about Gaza. Figured out. He's from Egypt. Here's an idea for his family. In Egypt, they can petition their government to open the Rafah crossing and help all of those people. Why did he come here and firebomb people instead of doing that?
It's a good question.
Why did an Egyptian come to the United States, plan a terror attack on Americans, instead of actually in his country bordering Gaza, do something about it there?
I imagine there's nothing that he can do, obviously.
It's easier to...
let's just be real. Literally anything he does in Egypt is more effective than attacking random Americans.
It's easier to attack defenseless Jews, old 70-year-old, 80-year-old women than it is
children
to go fight.
And it's
fight. I'm saying if he's literally standing in Egypt holding a sign saying "Open Rafah," that's the right one, right?
I imagine
Rafah. Yeah,
I imagine most Egyptians don't want that either. Whenever the Palestinians get together,
he comes
they
here
to, try to overthrow the government.
Yeah. Well, isn't it the same reason why you have people that are on the streets that are like, pro-Palestine or whatnot and say, oh, okay, well, why don't you let them come into your home and stay with you? And of course they're going to say absolutely not, or they walk away.
Yeah, but
even with immigrants.
I think when it comes to, at least with this context, like the guy, he really didn't like the Jews. Like that was the driving factor. He didn't like Israelis, and the people that were here were connected because they're Jewish. So.
I mean, was Jewish the actual motivation? Because I know he was screaming "Free Palestine." See, Fox News called it an anti-Semitic attack, and I'm like, oh, okay, but they didn't actually explain why it was anti-Semitic. They explained why it was anti-Israel or anti-Zionist. If they're just saying that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitic, okay, but they didn't explain that either.
Make that argument.
Which one?
That anti.
All right, I'm asking, when Fox News says this, can you please explain what you mean when you say this? Because if this is important, did this guy go out screaming he hated Jews? I think that matters. That's not been reported, but they are calling it an anti-Semitic attack, so I'd like to know what their distinction is.
I mean, does that mean it's open season on Jews so long as we call them Zionists when we're attacking them?
Who said that?
No, I'm just saying. So if we could dress up anti-Semitic attacks as anti-Zionist attacks, and I could go to a synagogue and do what I have to do, but if I say it in the name of anti-Zionism, is that just an immediate cover for whatever crimes?
The issue here is that he attacked people who are bring awareness to hostages, and the issue was Palestine and Israel, and so I'm asking a legitimate question. If they're saying that he hates the Jews, if you're bringing up that he hates Jews, I'm like, what is the reporting that there was motivation on this? I'm not saying he didn't. I'm saying, what's the reporting on that? I think it's important that we actually have a distinction and we understand the motivations of these people.
I think we like to hold, I don't think we do, but people in the media like to hold Israel to a double standard, and we spin up crazy narratives about Israel that drives people to go crazy. And I think that double standard is the anti-Semitism. So for example, like yesterday, there's a story coming out about how we have a Gaza humanitarian aid program that we're starting there. And allegedly 30 Palestinians were killed, according to the Gaza Health Administration run by Hamas. And it turns out these numbers are likely completely made up, and people become fanatic as a result of this fake news and disinformation spread about Israel.
Yeah,
But how is criticism of a government criticism of Jews?
I think it's the double standard held to Israel. People love to scream that Israel's committing genocide when it blatantly and obviously isn't, and will overlook other genocides that are happening simultaneously.
yeah,
But that could still just be an Israeli double standard, not a Jewish one.
I think the double standard exists because it's the Jewish state. There's so many people who apply the double standard uniquely to Israel because it is the Jewish state.
There's not a lot of Americans that know the difference, though, right?
No.
Well, I mean, some of them do, but they know the difference between Israeli and actual Jewish people in America. I mean, you've talked about it on your show a couple of times in that aspect.
What do you mean?
So, certain people don't understand that what's happening over there is not a microcosm of Jewish people in America, and they can't decipher between the two.
I'm just saying that on the news, I'm seeing them say this is an anti-Semitic attack, and I was like, wow, was this guy like targeting Jews specifically because they're Jews?
as far as I know, I don't know exactly what he said, but as far as I know, he didn't specify Jews. He was saying Palestine. So
Yeah. I
So
think
pro-Palestine, not anti-Jew.
well, I don't, like I said, I listened to some of the back and forth, and I didn't hear him clearly say anything specific about Jews. So
I just don't like this identity politics issue where it's like when you bring up crime stats or whatever, they call you racist or something like this, and it's like, look, man, I'm just trying to figure out what the motivations for these things are, and I think the challenge is there are factions of the right and the left that literally just hate Jews. And they also hate Israel because it's a Jewish state. And so that's where a lot of this is anti-Semitic comes from, because the assumption is they must be one of those factions. But then there's anti-war, anti-interventionist, libertarian types, liberals or otherwise, who are like, or conservatives. We don't want to be involved in whatever Israel's involved in. We don't want to be paying for their bills. And I think it's not anti-Semitic to be critical of a government.
no. Like, people like antiwar.com, they really like ride that edge really, really well. And I think that Scott Horton, actually, even though this is going to give a lot hives, I think Scott Horton, makes it clear that he's not anti-Semitic, but he's probably...
I just call him an anti-Israel terrorist or a pro-Palestine or a pro-Gaza terrorist.
I don't think Scott Horton could string together a sentence that he doesn't shoehorn Israel into. So, I mean, that's really all I have to...
There are people who are obsessed
understood
with
from
Israel,
his-
man. I'll tell you that.
He's got focus.
So I wanted to go full circle. The playbook that the Trump administration is applying here is great, and I think needs to be applied to more far left terrorists and Islamists that exist and continue to rear their heads in our country. And I think the administration will apply this to other people and use it more liberally moving forward. I don't want to turn this into a Jewish sob story, because people don't care to hear about Jewish sob stories at all. If Jews want to actually do something to fight back against these people, it's to arm themselves. Nobody cares to hear about, we were victims here, or Josh Shapiro is a victim, or outside of the embassy. Unfortunately, nobody gives a crap. You actually need to arm and defend yourselves, and that's when people will care.
I will
get
say,
the message.
have we? I will ask this question: have we seen any Ukraine-Russia style attacks like this in any way?
No.
Not really.
They've been keeping it in
Where
Europe
like
and Asia.
a pro-Russian person attacked some Ukrainian activists?
Nope.
You see Putin do some targeted...
No, I'm saying in the United States.
Oh, not
Have there
here.
been like pro-Ukraine people peacefully marching, and then a Russia guy is like, Russia, and then attacks them or something?
Nope.
Oh.
Shocker.
It's like that for a lot of other conflicts, too.
Where there's
No,
no violence surrounding them?
Where's the Burmese? Where's the Sudanese? Where's the Somali?
We're the Native Americans. Andrew Jackson's on the 20s.
Where's the peaceful cartel members trying to raise awareness for Tren Aragua, MS-13, and other narco gangs being outraged over what Trump is doing to them?
It's only Palestine.
That is a joke, by the way. Yeah, it's only ever Israel-Palestine.
Yeah.
It's this is why when that Miss Rachel, she made that video where she's like, "What's happening there?" So I'm like, I can't stand these people. Look, I mentioned this last night. There are going to be people who are like, but she's right, Tim. It's a genocide, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't care about that. You're allowed to have your issues. Scott Horton is allowed to have his opinions. He's allowed to solely focus on Israel. If that's what he wants to do, I got no beef. None. What I can't stand is there are these people who found foreign policy for the first time in their lives. They have literally no idea what's going on in the world, and they're just gargling word vomit because they saw it on the internet. Dude, these people saw a trend in an algorithm, and now it became their whole world. And I'm like, find some depth in your life.
No, they're going to say no, Tim.
Yeah, I know.
Say no. That's what.
This is why I don't like
Jews
TikTok.
want me to do.
And it's nothing to do. It's funny because these people ask me about TikTok. They're like, you want to see TikTok banned, but the only reason that they're banning TikTok is because of Israel. And I'm like, correct. And they're like, you admit it? And I'm like, it's not a secret. Everyone knows they're doing it. It doesn't excuse China from manipulating the algorithms in this country to make people go nuts.
There are multiple things that the government is using anti-Semitism to justify that I would be in favor of, even with without the phrase anti-Semitism being attached to it.
I think we need to have a serious conversation in this country about what anti-Semitism actually looks like, and that how the average anti-Semite probably looks a lot closer to this guy than anything else in our country. The average person who overstayed their visa from Egypt or Algeria or Lebanon or Syria is more anti-Semitic and willing to commit violence against Jews than any white supremacist, Pablo, 3%er, dumb bull crap group that doesn't or won't actually do anything against Jews. The average, Arab Muslim overstaying their visa, again, more likely than not agrees with this person than not. And I think that's something that, and is susceptible to commit violence like this, premeditated violence like this, where he planned this for over a year. He waited for his daughter to graduate before committing this crime.
I will say this too before we go to the next story. I do think what makes it challenging, so racism is overplayed by the left every single day. There was a viral video where a woman got a ticket on her bike for blowing a red light, and some white lady cops giving her a ticket, and the woman on the bike is like, "You're just being racist. You're racist." And it's like, no, you blew a red light, lady. You can't blow a red light on a bike. However, people who hate Jews hate Israel as an extension of that, and so there's it's a Venn diagram overlap between those who are purely anti-Semitic standing alongside people who are anti-Israel, and then this is where you get that overlap.
I don't think people understand the death cult and culture that a lot of these people come from. This guy's going to go back to his hometown and be welcomed as a hero. Yep. He's going to get a hero's welcome and be praised. If he ever goes back, his family might even get a stipend wherever they end up going back. But
thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.